All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We're Even Jay, and today we will be talking about player killing in Fate Origin. But make sure to stick around. We do have a giveaway closer to the end of the stream. But first, we're just going to jump in and talk about what's new in Fate Origin. So, Jay, go ahead and take it away.
All right, hi guys. So since last time or our last podcast, I think the most notable new thing, in Fate Origin has been the listing of Fate Origin NFTs on the Lutex marketplace. For those of you who don't know, Lutex is an NFT marketplace specifically for play to earn games and the metaverse. So you'll find a lot of NFTs on their marketplace, for games and play to earn. So, and I think, it's really good, for the Fate Origin system or game right now, right? Because now you have uh, you have those NFTs, more accessible to people, right? Especially people who primarily use, Lutex. So we will have a link to the description in the link, in the description of the video. So yeah.
Yep, and here is their website, just for anyone who's curious. You
Yeah.
can see they showcase a lot of the NFTs in a different kind of way than the JoJo website, and yeah, that's pretty neat. I like seeing the little animations. But all right, and so next, let's see. We also had the AMA with Musashi and Lutex. I believe Musashi joined the Lutex Discord and answered questions in text form. They mostly went over mechanics, what Fate Origin actually is. There was discussion about Fate Origin 2.0 and some other things similar to that. I think it was more of like an introduction to what Fate Origin actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. So I think what's next? So okay, I think the other thing is Guild Wars. In addition to Sundays, Guild Wars are also now available, on Thursdays.
Hmm.
So I guess that's actually today, right? If you take the
Yes.
time zone into consideration. So yeah, so you can now also play Guild Wars, on Thursdays, and it's always at 9 p.m. So in game time. So yeah, so if you look on the bottom left corner of your screen, right, you'll see the time there. So yeah, so you can convert that into your time zone. So just make sure you're available and ready to rumble.
Yeah, and just shameless plug, we are still recruiting for our guild. um,
Gamers.
Gamers, yes. Um, but yeah, and so also we had an update to the CP weekly rankings. It was a smaller update, but there's just a some more JoJo and some more diamonds. So that's just increased a little bit.
Yeah,
And there's that.
absolutely. All right, and I guess the last update we have for you this week is the changes to Time Rift. We briefly brought it up, I believe last week. Well,
Hmm.
our previous stream podcast as well. Time Rift, now refreshes, an hour after reset, and then it's going to be available for more hours during the day, and not just that, right? In addition to Time Rift, you can also purchase Time Rift tokens from the mall. So yeah, so if you run out of those attempts, those tokens to join, Time Rift, you can find those in the mall. And I believe, right now, they're going to be in the JoJo section. Yep, in the JoJo. And they're going to be all the way on the bottom. And you can find them for 11,200 JoJos each. So all
Yep.
right, so I believe that pretty much covers, what's new or what's new section for our podcast. So I think we are ready to jump into our main topic of the podcast. Right, Eve? Ready?
Yep. Let's
Let's
go.
go. All right. Okay. So as Eve mentioned at the beginning, today we're going to talk about PK or player killing in Fate Origin. So quickly, I'm just gonna quickly describe for you, right? What PK is. So there's a little bit of nuance, but PK is different, from PvP, even though they're a little bit similar, right?
Hmm.
But so PK usually occurs, in MMOs, right, where you have certain activities that are not primarily intended, right, for players to kill one another, right, but maybe you might have a boss, right, that you need to kill, or a dungeon that you need to clear, right, but because of the competition from other players, or for some other reasons, right, you might need to, or you might decide, right, to kill, certain players or PK them, right, in the process. So whereas, PvP is solely intended, right, to be a contest or a battle between players, right, player versus player.
Yeah.
PK all usually occurs, right, when there are activities that are PvE centric, right, to begin with. So that is uh, that is what it is. Yep.
Yep.
So,
And, we chose this topic for this podcast because there's been a lot of conversation and concerns brought up in various areas like the Telegram. And you can see, people arguing in comments in the game itself as it becomes a more prominent thing in the game nowadays. And so, yeah, we felt like this is the thing to talk about right now. We have a lot of opinions on this, and you'll see that as we continue because I think in some areas we kind of disagree.
absolutely. And, as Eve mentioned, right, this is a topic near and dear to a lot of players, right?
Hmm.
Because if you play Fate Origin right now, this definitely affects you, one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, this is, a topic our players, want to discuss, or they've been discussing, in various, ways. So we thought, okay, we'll also, talk about it, and we hope, you learn a few things, or, if you're also listening or watching us right now, you can also provide us with your own feedback as well.
Yeah, and just to throw this out there, if you have any questions or comments, we will address those later, just so we don't have to stop our conversation for now. But let's just go ahead and jump in. So I will say that PK happens in various different areas in Fate Origin. There's I wouldn't say every area is actually PK available in the game. But the most prominent areas you see it is boss dungeons, time rift, like Jay mentioned, um, and mostly the areas that you have something to gain or lose by killing another player. And I think there's definitely higher incentive with those activities, and so in a way it kind of influences players to PK for gain in some aspects.
Yeah. I believe, one of those activities, where we've been seeing, a lot of that, complaint or competition has been, the time rift dungeon or the time rift activity, because,
Hmm.
that's one big way, right, where players, can boost their CP, in the game. So I think in the next few minutes, we're just gonna talk about PK in general, how it affects the community, right? And we're both have, arguments for and against, PK in Fate Origin. So just to jump in. So I think my first argument against, PK will be that, and this one's really obvious, right? Because it divides, the community, right?
Hmm.
Because if you're playing the game, right, and I mean, you're just there, completing your activities, just having fun, or trying to just do your thing, right? And then, along comes, a player who just, PKs you and kills you, right? It's not fun, right? And the more that happens, the more upset, people get, right? And it creates, a certain animosity between, community members, and we sometimes see that, spill in the chat, right, where players are arguing, and so I think, that's one of the main, crushes of PK, in the game.
I think that's a good point, but I think in a lot of ways it's kind of like healthy competition, and I think any kind of competition in a game is good for that game because it challenges people and it pushes them to improve. Because I mean, if you're out attempting to kill a boss, for example, and someone PKs you, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh damn, I gotta I gotta raise my CP level because I'm not about to let this happen again, you know? Or you know, I want to be able to beat that person if they attempt to PK me again, or you know, something along those lines. And I think that's an example of a of healthy competition. I think, you know, there's a very big difference between healthy and unhealthy. And so I can definitely see how unhealthy competition would definitely divide the community and create animosity and stuff. And um, you know, I think that that unhealthy falls, you know, into negative comments and um, people threatening others and stuff like that. And I think stuff like that it shouldn't have a place in a community game.
I guess that's a good point, right? Because, as you mentioned, right, it's just part of the game, right? So if you play MMOs, you're
Hmm.
just gonna have, those circumstances, where, okay, you have to deal, with certain players, right? So I think, that's a good point, right? You're just gonna have to accept it, right? Just to be blunt. So, but, just on the top of my head, right? Again, as someone who also plays the game, who has been in those instances, it really discourages you from completing, activities and playing the game to the fullest, right? Because, I mean, okay, maybe, I have more time on my hand than someone else, but I mean,
Right.
most of us, who play Fate Origin, we're adults, right? We have
Mhm.
busy lives, busy schedules, right? So we might not always have the time, to play the game as we did, when we were in high school or college, right? All the time, 24/7, right? So if you have a limited number of windows, right, to complete certain activities, and then, someone always ends up PKing you end up being discouraged, right? You don't feel like, okay, you don't feel like you can do as many activities and be productive, right, or successful in the game, as you should be, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I totally understand where you're coming from and where others could come from in that aspect. You know, having a limited schedule would definitely make it a lot more difficult, especially if you're trying to complete so many things in the game to be able to raise your CP. But you know, on the same count wavelength, I can't. I'm words, but I think that there is so much teamwork involved in this game, ability for community interaction and creating friendships. You know, and that's pretty much what guilds are for, is community and having each other to help you complete things or do things. And so, you know, we have like, for example, when you're in a guild, you have that call for help kind of SOS feature that when you tap it, it'll share your location and say this person needs help, and ask, you know, whoever is playing if they want to assist or not. And you know, so I think that there is natural ways to beat having a limited schedule and being PK'd. Um, and you know, that's the point of an MMO, is creating a community, working together, and you know, especially like in areas of Guild Wars, for example, you know, that's a perfect example to think about. Is, you know, you have to work together to complete that objective, and whether you have a limited schedule or not, you're not going to get very far if you don't have, you know, guild members to help you get through that, even for someone of like your CP level.
Yeah, that's true because I mean, I've been in that exact situation, right? I think it was our previous guild war. I don't quite
Right.
remember the guild we were playing against, right? But
Yeah.
so my CP was definitely more than, theirs, and I just kept, killing them, when they're trying to take, our stone or base, whatever, right?
Mm.
But then they all ganged up on me, right? They're like, I don't know, six of them, they just came, in all direction, and then they just started attacking me at the same time, and they're using, their that skill to cancel, your movement, right? So I
Yeah,
just couldn't move, right? So
the
I
stun.
mean, individually, I could have, I was, right, taking them all down. I was winning
Mm.
individually, but then, when they started working as a team, right, I stood no chance, right? I was promptly, and aptly defeated, right? So,
Yeah.
and I guess, that is a good point because there's always, strength in numbers, right? And as Eve
Yes.
mentioned, I mean, the name is MMOs, right? Massive multiplayer, right? And
Mm.
the emphasis on the multiplayer there, right? So if you're playing an MMO, you have to work with others, right? You have to play with others, right? So it's not intended to be played alone. So I guess I can see that from as you mentioned, right? From that perspective, right? So if you're having difficulties, right? Facing a player alone, then get help, right? And that's what guilds, are for. And again, shameless plug, remember to
Cough,
join our
cough.
guild, gamers. So yeah, yeah, we're never gonna stop doing that. So yeah, you start, getting used to that by now. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
I also just want to say that we do a great job, I feel like, at helping players whatever level they're on. So, new players, veterans, different kinds, and we like to do pretty much everything in game. We're almost always online. So, even just feel free to reach out and just talk or um asked to do something together. We're always doing cross and we
Yeah.
just invite or, do it with whoever wants to join us. So, yeah, no shame.
Sounds good. All right. So then, and this one, I believe, in my mind, right, is the most important argument against PK, about
Mhm.
why, I think it's bad for the game. And so, okay, unlike, your traditional MMO or traditional game, right, so I think this one's particularly bad because, we are a play to earn, right, where there's a monetary incentive, right, for players, right, so I like to focus particularly on the activity called, Time Rift, the one
Mhm.
we talked about, earlier, because I'm seeing that's where a lot of players, get upset, right? And the main reason for that is because, Time Rift is an activity that is limited, right? So to play Time Rift, you get those tokens, right? The Time Rift tokens that you can use to join, the Time Rift activities. And, you only have a certain amount of attempts, right? In the day to
Right.
use those tokens. So let's say, okay, and those tokens, are not particularly easy to get by. So if you get only a handful of them, right? When you're online, killing monsters, in the open world, right? So they're not particularly easy, right, to come by. So when you're playing Time Rift, right, and then okay, someone just comes along and PKs you, so you are losing, rage, your rage points, in the game, which in turns, leads you not to complete, the Time Rift activity, to the fullest, right? Because I mean, the best way to earn CP right now in the game is through, Time Rift. I mean, in fact,
Definitely.
I've earned, about 100 million CP through Time Rift, since, it has been expanded, with more attempts, right? So, and CP in the game is one of the ways, you advance, and one of the ways you also earn, right? We talked about, the CP earning mechanism,
Mhm.
every Sunday. So the top, 100 players earn, certain JoJo amount based on their CP, right? So let's say if you turn to complete Time Rift and someone just ends up killing you, then they're getting in the way of you, earning that CP, right? And also quickly, the other point is also the mall, right? You also talk about how now you can purchase, the token, the Time Rift token from the mall. So let's say if you're spending actual JoJo, right, real money on that, and then okay, you buy the token with real money and you're trying to play, and then someone kills you, it means you're losing money. Yeah, just to put it, bluntly. What do you think,
Yeah.
Eve?
I I think that's a good point, but
Mhm.
on the same term, like you would have to be PK'd multiple times for that to really be like an argument, because like you said, it only costs 20 rage points if you die. And um so someone would have to kill you over and over and over. And I mean, not that I'm saying that's impossible for anyone in this community. I'm sure it's happened or will happen. But I just think that the likelihood that someone is going to chill there until someone comes along to PK them again, it's unlikely. And if you think about it, there is various different places that you can go in Time Rift. So, if you get PK'd, like I've been PK'd in Time Rift and I've had my boss stolen, and it just happens. And I'll just move on. I'll go to a different one, and if they follow me there, then okay, crap. It's dang. Now I've got to I've got to deal with this, but I'll just move on again, and if it happens again, then it's like, okay, this is just not happening today. I'll get what I can and leave instead of, you know, kind of letting them engage with me again and again, if that makes sense. So, I feel like it's a good point, but it's also just I don't know. I just don't see someone being that abrasive. Is that I think that's the
Okay.
right word I'm looking for.
Okay.
You,
So while you were talking, okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment, right? I
mhm.
just thought of something, that I thought, okay, I mean, so when you're playing, Time Rift, for example, and since CP, right, is an important incentive, right, so let's say someone keeps, killing you and whatnot, right, I
Right.
think that might actually be a good strategy, right? Okay, just follow me, for a moment, right, so in CP, right? When you're earning CP, right? You're playing
Yeah.
against other players, or you're playing, Time Rift and earning CP, and then you're ranking, at the end, you can get in the way, of other players, also earning CP, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it is a competition, right?
Ooh,
You're competing against other players. So if you kill them, you PK them, right? In Time Rift, for example, right? You're actively, ensuring your success, right? Your ranking, right? As an example, right? Let's say, I think right now I'm maybe ranked, 21, in CP, right? Let's
mhm.
say there's a player that is ranked 22 and I see them getting closer. Okay, I can decide to PK them, in Time Drift, right? So they don't
That's
get closer
brutal.
to my rank, right? What do you think?
That's brutal. I understand what you're saying, but damn, and I'm sure there's going to be players who will or maybe currently do have that frame of mind, and I get that good strategy is always, or any kind of strategy is always the best to have in a game like this where there is competition, but that's just kind of you're kind of building a reputation for yourself, and so I don't know, but I've also seen, or well, we both have seen actual whole guilds that kind of follow that method of we're just gonna we're gonna go and PK people in Time Rift, or bosses, or I've seen it in pet bosses too, um, and I guess that's probably the same line of thinking, is to ensure their success and um, keep other guilds from increasing in CP and ranking and everything. So I guess it makes sense, but I also think that things like that could cause players to quit, because it might feel impossible to rise in ranks if you're PK'd, and especially if you've got like a whole guild that's coming through PKing you. If I died in one of the boss dungeons, for example, or areas, and it was from, one member, and then there's just three following after, I'm not gonna try again. That's a whole guild just waiting for me to come back, and I think that people need to be really careful there, because we definitely don't want to turn off new players from the game.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, and it is absolutely a good point that you brought up, right? Because I mean, the gap in CP now it's so wide, right? You have
Hmm.
players that are maybe 400 million CPs, right? Above their competition, right? And I mean, let's say if you're a new player, I guess you might feel like okay, you can never catch up, right? So
Right.
if whenever you're trying to complete an activities, someone just ends up picking you, you might feel like okay, well, I mean, I'm never gonna be able to get anywhere, right? I'm never gonna get to that level. Right? So
Exactly.
there's no point, in trying, obviously, right? But I guess it goes a little bit back to what we talked about earlier, right? When we were talking about guilds, and creating friendships and alliances, right, in the game. So there's always strength in numbers, right? So if there's something you believe, okay, I cannot do this alone, then I mean you can get help, right? And that's where you have guilds in the game, and you also have players that will be available to help, right? And
Right.
I know I also always get people DMing me, in the game, and that's a good aspect of Faith Origin, right now being ahead of the competition, especially from a social aspect, right? Because you have email, you can send. You also have DMs, you can message other players, right? And you also mentioned that SOS feature, right, that you can use, right? So
Yes.
let's say if you're having trouble completing activities, you can press that, right, and so a guild member can come and help you, or you can just DM someone, one of your friends, and say, "Hey, can you help me with this activity? There's this player that's just always killing me, right?" So yeah,
Right.
so I think if you work with other players, right, you should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Guilds, I think, in friendships or creating friendships or just people that you get along with or have, the similar views and such. I think that's the natural solution to things like that. And, I think especially if you're having difficulty completing things or, you have questions or just need some help, there's the Telegram, the Fate Origin Telegram. And there's people answering questions in there all day long, and people that are always watching the Telegram. And so, there's definitely that area. And, like we said before, we're always available to answer questions, and we like to help our guild members or even just friends that we have as well. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity and um, areas you can and resources you can use to get around stuff like that. And I also just I think that PvP in general and PK, because it's under the same umbrella, it's just unavoidable, in MMO with PvP, and especially if you're trying to rise in the CP ranks, you know.
I see. Okay. Okay. So before I touch on on our my next point, because I want to build up on something you mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
So I'm just quickly gonna go off topic, right? Maybe some of you watching right now, you might notice that we're kind of repeating the gear dungeon. So just a quick tip, right, for those of you who don't know. You can earn, glory points, from the gear dungeon, So after you complete the first three
Yes.
and, earn some gears or items, you can proceed, to just farm it. So what we do is, we complete, the first level because it's really quick. So you earn, 2,000 glory points, after each turn, after. So I think you can earn that maybe 3 or 4 times. I don't quite remember, but you can earn 2,000 glory points, after completing the first three, and earning those gears and set stones. So yeah, so it's a good way, right, to get glory points that you can use in the honor shop, to buy some diamonds or whatever you need. So yeah, I just
Yeah,
quickly off topic to
it's a good point.
bring that up.
I'm
So
glad you mentioned that because I kept looking at it like, should we talk about this?
yeah. So getting back on my train of thought. So
Mhm.
yeah, I wanted to talk about something you mentioned about reputation, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so and we're not gonna name names, right? But I mean, if you play the game, long enough, as for now, there are players, that you already know in the game that have a certain reputation as PKers, right? Players that
Hmm.
always PKing people, right? And I mean, most of the community members already know them. They know, okay, these people they just PK you all the time, and sometimes, for absolutely, no reason, right? So I
Right.
remember this instant. I'll give you an example, right? So there used to be this player that used to pick at me all the time, and again, and sometimes, for no apparent, reason at all, right? And so I remember there are some specific scenarios, right? So what this player will do is that, okay, it happened especially in the boss, dungeon. So I go to kill the boss, right? And I'm beating up the boss, getting the boss low on HP, and this player is just gonna wait on the side, right? And they're gonna wait for me to kill the boss, and then they're gonna kill me, right? Just absolutely evil, right? For no reason, right? So, and that used to happen a lot, right? And then, okay, I mean, they don't do that as much anymore, right? Because I've raised my CP now, and they can no longer bully me, right? But but if you're a player, right, that does, things like that, you start building a reputation, and a lot of players will not like you in the game, right? So if MMOs are, I mean, designed to focus on community, friendship and all that, right? You're gonna have a hard time building, those friendships and alliances in the game, right? Because you have a bad reputation. So yeah.
So what was the point of the player killing you?
I have absolutely no idea. I think, maybe they're just those players, right, that just
Right.
enjoy, bullying people and killing people in PKs, right, in
Mm.
activities, right? Because, I mean, as you know, right, so if someone does enough damage to a boss, and they kill the boss, or, even if you kill that person, you're not going to get the loot, right? You're not going to get any of the drops. So it's just going to
Ah,
sit there, right? So they were not doing it to get the loot or anything, right? So they're just,
yeah.
I guess that was their way of having fun, or I don't know. I can't really tell, but
Interesting.
yeah, but yeah. So you just develop a bad reputation, right, when you do stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I definitely agree with that. And,
Hmm.
I think that you made kind of a good point that there's some players that maybe just enjoy that or they're having fun. And everyone, I feel like, has their own version of what they find fun in a game or enjoyable. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, where am I going? um, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that as long as you're finding what you enjoy in the game, that's what's important. And, I think that yes, PK is one of those things that not everyone is going to agree with, and for totally understandable reasons. But, for some players, maybe their reputation is really important, and maybe they don't want to have a bad reputation, so they don't PK, or maybe they just don't care, and so they'll just do whatever they need to do to be able to get to the top. And I understand that, if you're it's a competition, and if that's your driving force in the game, then power to you, but I think it's important to just keep in mind, though, that what you do is going to set a reputation for yourself. And like you mentioned, we can think off the top of our heads, a couple of players who PK, or even guilds, like we mentioned. And people are going to remember that. And if you find yourself looking for a guild at some point, or to be, able to participate in things with other people, you might find that people won't want to have you around because of your reputation. And so I think that's something important to keep in mind as well.
While you're talking about that, it kind of reminded me of a documentary, I watched. It was years ago, about how some people play MMOs, as a way to just bully other players, right? So they buy, like in-game items, specifically to boost their
Really?
CP or character power, right? Because okay, they enjoy, they're well having fun, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
killing other players, and that's how they relieve stress or enjoy themselves. So yeah, I can
Interesting.
definitely see that, so yeah, so I can see that, and I guess going back to the reputation, right? I guess it gives you that reputation. Okay, you're someone that you mess with, right? So I was while you were talking, it reminded me. So uh, I don't know if you've ever seen The Wire. It's a good TV show used to air,
Mm-hmm.
years ago in on HBO. Yeah, on HBO. So it's it's one of the best shows of all time, and I believe they did a ranking last year of the best TV shows of all time, and I think it was and number one, yeah. So it's a really really good show. So the reason I'm bringing this up, there's this character, right, in in the show, he's called Omar, right? So Omar, he's the guy. He robs, drug dealers. Yeah, so that's kind of his
Jeez.
reputation, right? He robs, drug dealers, specifically, right? So whenever he's walking by, coming by, everybody's, screaming and running, right? They're all saying Omar is coming, right? So I guess, you just kind of, I just had that visual in my mind while you were talking about Omar, coming, because he has that reputation of being, that bad guy that everybody is scared of, right? So no one wants to mess with him, right? Because they know, okay, that's Omar, right? So anyway, that was just,
That's
that
that
just
is
came to mind while you're talking. So
that's definitely a reputation.
it is absolutely is a reputation. So I think there's another aspect, I would like to touch on, right? And so this one is also related to PK, but it's a little bit more in Siege War. So yeah, it's something we've actually noticed, recently. So while we're doing, Siege, right? So yeah, we were playing Siege, right? And I noticed, that my HP was, about half, but usually, the bosses in Siege don't do that much damage, right? Especially at my level, with
Mhm.
my CPU right now. So I was like, okay, it means, there's probably a player that was attacking me, and I remember I was telling you, wait, it looks like there's a player attacking, someone else, in Siege War, right?
Uh-huh.
So and then I think that player also ended up killing you, right? Is that correct?
Yes. I was like, it took me a minute. I was like, there's no way someone is PKing
Mhm.
in Siege War because it's just there's no point to that. But yeah, eventually they did kill me, and I saw who killed me. So that was definitely a development.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the reason we wanted to bring this one up, specifically is because, okay, for one, as you mentioned, I mean, it is counterproductive, right, to
Hmm.
kill your own, because in Siege, right, you're all working together to kill the boss, right? So if you're killing your own teammate or someone that's, on your own server, I mean, it is absolutely counterproductive, right? Because, I mean, with fewer people, right, it means you're not gonna kill the boss, as quickly, right? So if you're PKing someone, in Siege, right, you're getting the way of progress, right? So the reason we're bringing this up is because, yeah, we are hoping, for a change in that game mechanics, but I think it
Hmm.
also applies to the game overall. So I think we can show that. You,
Yeah.
you wanna jump into Siege War? Okay, let me
Yes.
let me get in there. So let's go to the gold boss,
Yeah.
the gold. Okay, let me see. The golden lord. Okay, let me jump in there. So that way we just want to show you, how it actually happens. So okay,
Yeah. So
okay,
as you can see, there's like definitely 5 different modes in Siege War.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and so right now, I think the default, right? When you enter, the siege
Yeah.
world, in a sense, the dungeon, you are put automatically on the cross server,
Hmm.
So, but then, if you decide to attack someone else, you can use the force one. But if the person's on the same team, that's not gonna work. So let me
Right.
leave, the team for a moment. Let me exit our team. So the one that you use is the one in red, the one that says attack, attack anyone who's out of, I mean, you can read the rest of the text, right? But so
Hmm.
if you take yourself off of that, right, so if you put yourself on attack, so you can go ahead, and attack and kill someone else, in Siege. So as you will
Dead.
see in a minute right here, I'm doing that right now. All right, there you go. Okay. Well, unless the person is in a safe zone, of course, right? But if they're not, then yeah, you can definitely attack them. So the reason we're bringing this up, right, is as we were talking about earlier, right? For one, doing this in Siege, where you're all trying to complete an activity together, it is counterproductive, right? But it also goes to another point in the game, specifically where there is no way to focus an attack on someone, in particular, right? So let's say if I'm using, my mech right now, right, to attack, and let's say there are other players around me while I'm trying to attack Eve, they're also going to suffer, right, from that attack, right? So what we're trying to, and I brought that up, to Musashi recently will be to have a way to avoid collateral damage, right? And not just in Siege, but also when you maybe in the boss dungeon or in Time Rift, right? Let's say a player is attacking you and you want to retaliate, right? But then while you're trying to do that, right, you're also attacking other players around you, right? So there's always collateral damage sometimes, right? And that just can turn into a real mess.
I can't even do any damage on you. But yeah, and so I think that is a great idea, and I really hope they implement it because that's just it's you should be able to attack whoever is attacking you. You're just defending yourself. And especially, if you think about it in Siege War, over time there's going to be so many more players than there even is right now.
Yeah,
And for example, if we have different servers coming in, and because that is what Siege War is about. It's about different servers battling to take a city and kill these bosses, to do so. And if you have someone from your own server attacking you, which is possible,
yeah,
that is an option that they can do. You want to be able to attack that person back without killing your own server, or anyone in your vicinity that you're not intending to
point.
attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that that is a really important feature that hopefully they're able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, and while we're on the topic, we also tested this, in the open world. Let's
Yeah.
jump back out there
Okay.
so we can show that. So yeah, we thought so. If you look in the same option, right, when you're just battling monsters, in the open world, So let's see, which map should we go to?
Sky City.
Okay, let's jump into Sky City so we can show you what we're talking about. So in the open world, you also have that attack option, right? So we thought, okay, it means you could also attack people, right? In the open world, and we actually put that to the test. So if you leave, the what is it called, the safe zone, and you put yourself, in force, or attack actually, and so you usually see a message that says, okay, defeating other players in neutral area will culminate, your guilt. When you are defeated while being guilty, you will lose, certain bound diamond. So are you sure you want to
Yes.
switch? So if you confirm, and then you start attacking. So we thought, okay, you could actually attack other people, but it turns out you can. So I guess that feature is not enabled right now, which is a good idea, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want people just randomly attacking others in neutral zone, right? Like in the open world, especially if people can be AFK farming, right? And then someone comes along and just kills them, right? So it's good that it's not enabled right now, but it will probably be in the future, I guess. So and that's why I believe having that focus attack damage will be good in the future, right? So let's say if you're in the open world, in a neutral zone, and a player starts attacking you, that way you can retaliate and only deal damage to that player only, right? Without also killing everybody else around you.
Yes. And also, I think that these areas might be all considered safe zones. And so that also may be why we're not able to attack. But it that means that any area where you're fighting mobs that aren't bosses or siege mode, or a specialized dungeon like that, that is technically safe zone right now. But in the future, I believe that's going to change, and there will be the option, like Jay was saying, for people to switch to attack mode and kill others even while they're just AFK farming. So that's something to look forward to in the future. Just, prepare yourself because that's going to be very interesting.
It is gonna be wild. So
Yes.
yeah, so again, yeah, I just want to quickly bring that up because we noticed that recently. So yeah, I guess kind of brings up to the end of our topic on PK. So I
Hmm.
believe we brought up some really good point, right? So and again, and so I mean, I'm not gonna say to leave you guys with some lesson, right? But to put it simply, right? If you're if you're doing activities, I mean, right now, don't PK if it's not necessary, right? Because
Hmm.
I mean, right now, I mean, there aren't as many players yet in the game, right, where you cannot complete activities without PKing, right? So I believe, unless it is absolutely necessary, I guess there's no point to PK right now in the game. So that's kind
Yeah.
of yeah, where I stand on that right now. So
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think, although I do think in some places it's viable. I won't say personally I don't PK. I always make sure I'm on peace mode when I go into any instance that changes what my mode is. But sometimes accidents also just happen. I've entered Time Rift, for example, and it automatically switches you to force mode when you join, and sometimes I just forget to put it on peace mode and I kill a boss, and then someone runs by and I attack and kill them, and I feel awful because I didn't intend to. And so I think it's also good to remember too that sometimes accidents just happen. Don't react harshly immediately, especially if you're not sure if it was intentional or not. And also, if it was intentional, just move on. I mean, there's really nothing good that will come of that. Just focus on growing, and just
get him back later.
yeah, just retaliate later or
Yeah.
ask for help. So that's just my
Uh,
opinion.
Sounds good. Okay,
Hmm.
so it was a fun topic for us to discuss. I hope it was just as fun for you. So if you have, any suggestions or even your own take, and you're not, in the chat right now, of course, we'll have, a video of this podcast available later, so you can comment, bring up your own point, right, and your own take, on the matter. So I
Yeah.
think that's it. So also we're ready to do the giveaway now, right? So let's see. Do we have, people in the chat right now? I
I
think,
don't think so.
do we? Oh, we don't have people in the chat right now, so that's okay. So yeah, I
I
mean,
could be wrong,
so I
but
guess we're taking the giveaway for ourselves. No, okay, I'm
no.
just kidding.
We'll
So
just use it next time. That's
yeah,
okay.
so yeah, we absolutely will save it, for next time. So I think yeah, I think that concludes, our stream for the day. So
Hmm.
before we get going, so we'll always, have weekly videos, posted on our channel. And
Hmm.
so this Saturday, we're gonna be posting a guide video about the Tower of Judgment. So for those of you who play, Fate Origin, actually, the Tower of Judgment, is a really good way for you to earn, some of those. Cards, soul cards, that you can use to boost, your CP, right? But you also get a few rewards, for completing them, right? And the bosses can be really harsh, and they can be really difficult, right? To kill and take down. So we're gonna have a video that will show you, one of the tips and tricks, right, that you can use to complete, the Tower Judgment, if your CP is not up to the task. So yeah, so just be on the
Yes.
lookout, just make sure to subscribe and look out for that video that's gonna be on our channel on Saturday.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely. I've actually used the tips myself recently and it works.
Sounds good. All right.
Yeah,
And
so
just quickly to add to that, if you watch the video, you also have more tricks, that you want to show us, just make sure to comment or, find us on Twitter and
mhm.
we'll definitely, listen and put them out there for you. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. We like to hear everyone's strategies, especially if it's something we haven't thought of or heard or come across ourselves. So if you want to
absolutely.
share it, that'd be awesome. But all right, so I think that's the end of our podcast today. We are going to be doing another podcast next Wednesday, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Even J Podcast, and make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, of course, as well. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. And just again, we're Even J. Next time, hopefully, we'll have a giveaway and actually be able to give out the prizes. So make sure you come next time and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.